The first layer of any woman's garments is the shift. Shifts are made of silk, linen, or wool, depending on the wearer's class or preference. This varies between Aes Sedai. Stockings are made from wool or silk. Slippers may be worn if the wearer expected only light walking during the day. Aes Sedai are not limited in their dress styles, but they often wear the styles of their homelands. Dresses in the Westlands typically button up the back, making donning the garment difficult without help. Some Aes Sedai will employ a maid to care for garments and aid dressing. The amount or type of jewelry that an Aes Sedai wears is based on preference. However, their Great Serpent Ring is not. The Great Serpent Ring is given to every woman who becomes accepted, but must be worn on the second finger of their left hand. An Aes Sedai's ring may be worn on any finger or not at all, although this is only done in extreme circumstances. Hairstyles are also dependent on the individual's preferences. Haircuts among Aes Sedai range from chin length to waist length. Every Aes Sedai shawl is unique to the individual. The only requirements are that the fringe of the shawl must be easily recognizable as the Aja color of the wearer, and that there is a white flame on the center back. Vines, flowers, and branches commonly appear as decorations on shawls. An Aes Sedai shawl is usually only worn for formal occasions. This project was obviously inspired by Robert Jordan's series, The Wheel of Time. My goal for this project was to be as accurate to the books as possible with my current skills and budget. Major inspiration for the style of the garments came from the New Spring graphic novel. The reference photos that I leaned on the most for the dress was the acceptance dresses, Sutama's dress, and Tamra's dress. The shift was a loose amalgamation between Swan and Moraine's shifts and historical ones. The shawl design was based off of those that we see in New Spring. I did use a lot of cross-referencing back to the books, just because the shawls in the comic book were not quite as book accurate as I would have liked. My maid's dress was also inspired by the New Spring comic book. I got huge help for this project from articles on the 13th Depository. They are incredible over there. They have so many more details than I will ever know. The two articles that I referenced the most are linked in the description. The pattern that I used for the dress is Simplicity 8768. I altered the sleeves some to make them fuller. I changed the front zipper closure to a back button closure, and I altered the facing because I am a sewing noob and I didn't get the facing. If you thought the format of this video was very interesting, please check out the series by CrowsEyeProductions that this was based off of, and I'll link that in the description. I have a few more notes on this project, but if you're not interested in how fantasy meets or clashes with history in the realm of garment construction, then thank you. I'll say goodbye to you here. To preface, I love The Wheel of Time, and this is not a criticism of it. While we all know that Jordan can be descriptive to the extreme, he seems to have left out any description of supportive undergarments, which became an issue early on in this project. If I'm missing a time where he does do any description of supportive undergarments, please let me know. Usually I am perfectly happy with my authors leaving out this kind of detail, but he puts in so many details in other parts of clothing. This includes not just a good pair of stays, but also garters, since stockings have only been magically holding themselves up since the 1930s. This is particularly noticeable to someone like myself who's interested in fashion history, just because we see Nynaeve and Elaine get dressed and undressed so often throughout the series. The more you look at how clothes were worn before the last century, the more you realize that throwing on a shift and a dress isn't really gonna cut it as far as garment structure is concerned. Especially since one of the dates referenced by Robert Jordan in the back of the New Spring comic book is 16th to 17th century. I leaned much more on the side of book accuracy than structural accuracy for this project. However, in the last week, I've learned about supportive shifts, which are theorized to be a form of bust support in the 14th century. And this would be like combining a pair of stays or a form of stays into the shift garment itself. This would be a great, convenient way of excusing the lack of stays that we see in the Wheel of Time. But more research is necessary on my part before I'm going to start including supportive shifts in my Wheel of Time projects. Thank you for watching.